Governor wants answers to authority funding. Morobe aiming to cut election costs. And PNGDF soldiers return from UN mission.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday's news. The operations of the Porgera Development Authority have been questioned by Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas. In a news conference today, the Enga Governor called for an audit into the organization's books. Sir Peter made this statement following the threat by PDA management to shut down its operations after rumors of funding issues.
This morning, the Angan Governor spoke for the first time about the operations and management of the Porgera Development Authority. After almost 20 years serving as the political head of the province, he believes the Anga provincial government had not influenced or manipulate operations of PDA. However, he says the recent threat by PDA management to shut down is suspicious.
But because of the sudden threat, we are now calling on the appropriate authorities and PDA to actually come out and produce their financial reports since inception.
The Porgera Development Authority was established as an act to be a vehicle for development reasons in the Porgera Valley using benefits from the Porgera mine. Sir Ipatas says the recent actions by PDA management and the threat over financial constraints is not right and says an audit must be carried out.
I see that Porgera Development Authority has been used as a platform, as an organization for political and personal gain.
The Anga provincial government allocates 15% of its budget since PDA was established, and more than 139 million kina in funding were parked under PDA's account.
And for them to take out ahead to asking for more funds and threatening to closing down the office is quite irresponsible. They have not delivered to expectation.
Governor Ipatas is calling on the national government to carry out the audit. Attempts by EMTV to get comments from PDA board members were unsuccessful. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
The burning of the classroom at Wabeg Community School is uncalled for, says Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas. Governor Ipatas says the Kandep recount was not a political directive by Enga provincial government, but by the Supreme Court. He says authorities responsible will compensate for the destruction of this learning facility.
And I've also made a call for the national government to divert district funds from Kandep to pay for this classroom. Because these are innocent kids being deprived of their education.
The Morobe province is looking at significantly reducing transport costs during election preparations and polling in 2017. Provincial Election Manager Simon Soheke believes costs can be drastically reduced if local level and provincial government vehicle fleets are used. Morobe has begun preliminary work to update the electoral rolls.
Many of these returning officers are election veterans. Some are relatively new, and 2017 will be their first election. But all of them know about the costs involved in the preparations leading up to 2017 and the costs involved in the polling. One of the main tasks will be to keep the costs of preparations down as much as possible.
Coming weeks will be challenging, it's going to be tough, but we are ready. We have done a tentative date, scheduled date for us to complete the role update. So as of next week, teams will starting to do their third level training, which will be training of the enrollment agents.
Vehicle hires and helicopter charters in provinces like Morobe eat up large chunks of election budgets. In Morobe, 80% of the population live in some of the most isolated areas of the province.
Our people who will be collecting the names will be our local people, and our officers will be using those people.
Our people, they are going to take ownership of this enrollment.
Morobe will begin updating the electoral roll in a few weeks' time. It's an important process which will need a lot of time and resources. The difference in this election is that the data will be collected and compiled in the province, with technology playing a central role in the collection, updating and storage. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
A church service was held today at PNG Defence Force headquarters in Port Moresby's Murray Barracks to welcome home 4 soldiers who returned from a mission in Sudan, Africa. The 4 were deployed under the United Nations peacekeeping program. One of them, Major Peter Ikau, was awarded with a commendation by the force commander for his role in quelling a fight in Malakal, South Sudan.
The 4 soldiers were deployed as PNGDF United Nations military observers to Sudan in August last year. Majors Quadret Larawin and Stephen Serum served at the UN African Union mission in Darfur, Sudan. Major Eddie Etato, who is away in Medeng, and Major Peter Ikau served at the UN mission in South Sudan. They were responsible for planning, conducting, monitoring and reporting on operations and patrols, as well play the role of military liaison officers.
This is the 4th that has just deployed, and there's 4 in each rotation. So so far we've had 12 go through, and we currently have 4 on the ground, 2 in Darfur and 2 in South Sudan.
The 4 were able to participate in the short and long duration patrols. Each of them received a UN medal for performing to a standard. Major Ikau, who was awarded with the commander's commendation, was able to intervene and control a fight between Sudan refugees residing at South Sudan and the host community.
Knowing the kind of results normally occurred there, but we were able to quell it, and there was no reinforcement. Actually, our Army's force in Juba, they want to send reinforcement in, but because of the action we took, able to save them from extra movement of additional troops.
His 2 comrades, Majors Larawin and Serum, also shared the same sentiment of their experiences.
It's similar to any organization, armed forces organization, except that it's the current size of the force is like 5 Papua New Guinea Defense Force put together on the ground. So it was a huge mission.
Joint Operations Center in the UN basically collects information and they verify information, unlike in our military where they plan and deploy forces. But in there, we were basically collecting information and verifying them.
Brigadier General Gilbert Toropo, who welcomed them, spoke highly of the 4, commending their high degree of professional competency and devotion to duty. All the PNG United Nations military observers have been strongly recommended for future deployment into UN peacekeeping operations. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
The Mount Wilhelm race today was officially opened by Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Tobias Kulang. The Mount Wilhelm race will be a grueling 42-kilometer marathon from Kundiawa to the foot of Mount Wilhelm in the Gambog district. Minister Kulang, speaking at the official opening, said the Mount Wilhelm race will promote sport tourism and allow the people of Kundiawa Gambog to benefit economically, with the race this year bringing in a total of 500,000 kina.
The marathon will begin tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. in Kundiawa town. The 400 runners are expected to take part in teams of 6, running 6 kilometers each. In total, the marathon teams are set to run 42 kilometers. The initiative was set up by Tourism Promotional Authority and member for Kundiawa Gambog District, Tobias Kulang, to promote sport tourism.
From all over Chimbu are running this race in 3 categories. One is the primary school, which is restricted only to Kundia Gembok district because we don't want to create a kind of a crowd. And secondly is the high school to Tiwet section, which is allowed to the province. And then the open category, which is allowed for anybody in the nation. Correct.
The race received 60% sponsorship from private sponsors, and Minister Kulang says this shows the potential of public-private partnership for tourism.
Most of corporate entities coming on board to provide support. So that's a good signal that the concept that we are trying to embark on is probably prudent and can achieve the result that we want.
But the minister says the important thing is that the people benefit from the race economically.
The objective is to promote tourism and generate an economic base through sports tourism around Mount William.
Peter Kolla, a runner taking part in the marathon, said they have trained for a week for the marathon and are ready for the race.
The first race, so kind of some bonus race comes. So first the race, when people most employed that team come to race, but the
race will begin here in Kundiawa town and finish off at the foot of Mount William. Minister for Tourism and Culture Tobias Kulang hopes that international races will participate in the race next year. Adelaide Xerox Kari National, MTV News, Kundiawa.
Among stories after the break, a visiting urologist at PIH, the Institute of Engineers donates to POMGEN, and talks of taro becoming a commodity. Stay with us. Welcome back. Laser lithotripsy, a special laser procedure for removing kidney stones, is now open to patients suffering from kidney stones at the Pacific International Hospital in Port Moresby. The hospital has brought Dr. Lionel Nanaraj, a specialist in urology, who will be in the country until this Saturday. Laser lithotripsy is a non-invasive procedure that breaks down kidney stones through the urethra.
Pacific International Hospital has seen the need to provide advanced healthcare to the country without the need for patients to travel overseas for treatment. People with kidney stones can now go to PIH for consultation under visiting urologist specialist Dr. Lionel Nanaraj.
When there are hardly any facilities available in the entire PNG for treatment of kidney stones and the other urology related stones which form in our body, that this is an opportunity where you have one of the topmost doctors in this field available for doing this kind of procedure. And these are absolutely non-invasive procedures where there is no surgery involved. It is through the natural opening of the body that the scope is inserted, and by means of a laser the stone is destroyed and it comes out on its own, the particles come out on its own.
Kidney stone disease is caused by lifestyle, diet and hereditary factors.
It can cause acute pain. It can end up in multiple infections, and also you can have renal failure if stone disease is left untreated. PIH has acquired some instruments which makes it possible to be done, and our long-term dream is that it will become an established procedure here also.
Dr. Nanaraj is in the country for a week for consultation and to perform laser lithotripsy if needed. PIH is offering laser lithotripsy at 7,000 kina. Merlin Diaukatam, National, MTV News.
The Institute of Engineers, PNG, yesterday announced the donation of a 110 kVA generator to the children's ward at the Port Moresby General Hospital. Through the Port Moresby branch, the institute has gone out of its way to raise funds for the cause, which will greatly benefit the hospital, particularly the sick children.
The institution made the donation through a check presentation to Energy Power Systems PNG in August to purchase this generator set for the children's ward at Port Moresby General Hospital. Speaking at yesterday's media conference, PNG CEO Benedict Mick said the children who benefit from this donation will one day be leaders of Papua New Guinea and possibly engineers and technical officers. Hence, the donation is the Institute's contribution to their health and future, adding that the Institute's engineers will spearhead managing and supervising of the installation of the generator free of charge.
It is so good to see engineers putting their hand up and doing something, giving out from their hearts, free of charge to nation building.
The problem of low power supply to the children's ward during power outages was brought to the Institute's attention back in 2013. Until August 25th, the prospect has made slow but steady progress. Lorraine Gabina, National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, PNG President and PNG Data Co Limited General Manager Tony Morisause also announced that the Institute is preparing for a national conference to be staged in April 2017. The Engineers Conference will address the importance of infrastructure sustainability and cost efficiency.
They may be small, but when we collectively put it together and engineers go out to their respective provinces in the four corners of the country and start to apply the new techniques and the ideas and the networking, exchanges of information, the challenges and lessons from the conference, they're able to then change their way of thinking and doing things so that they can also be innovative in their application of the engineering practices. So this is really the fundamental reason why the institution said, now, let's get into this conference. Let's bring a theme that is so critical to us, because with the limited cash that we have as a country, how can we be smarter with our cash?
The construction for the 35-megawatt power station is well underway at Yalu outside of Ley City. The project is being built by Korean company Doosan Engine PNG. The construction site is a hub of activity. Large storage tanks have already been established and the foundations of some of the building being constructed. The power station is expected to supply electricity to the Wafi mine when it comes into operation. This is also expected to feed the electricity demand in Ley City. More than 100 women in 2 local level governments are working together to learn new skills in leadership and personal development. Some of the women have ventured into farming and say there is a need for the provincial and national governments to establish a market for them to export taro overseas.
Papua New Guinea can be classified as a rich agricultural nation with the potential for large-scale agriculture production. The increasing exports of agriculture commodities such as coffee, cocoa and taro has contributed a lot to the agriculture sector in PNG. Fijian Ilisapia Bati Sari, currently doing Masters in Science with the Agriculture Department at the University of Technology, says PNG women have the potential to engage in such businesses.
They will be able, as good decision makers, as good business ladies, they will be able to export some agricultural commodities. Taking, for example, taro.
Taro is the second most important root staple crop after sweet potato in terms of consumption. In 2009, PNG was ranked the 4th highest taro producing nation in the world, with major input from the National Agriculture Research Institute. Bati Sari says the national government should increase the export market for taro so these women can export their taro overseas.
With a good farm management approach, the whole holistic approach given out to these ladies, somehow with this group or with this district, they will somehow export taro in the near future. Not only taro, there are other potential commodities.
The training also includes upskilling on sewing, gem making and arts and craft that can be made and sold at the market to generate income. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Ley.
And now looking at our finance news, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.3155 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.3080 US dollars, $0.4012 Australian dollars, $0.2718 euro, and 31.30 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and cocoa closed higher, while coffee and copra closed the day lower. Palm oil and copper closed lower, while crude oil closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 85.4 points lower, the ASX is trading at 31.08 points lower, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 32.88 points lower. When we come back, a final year student at Pacific Adventist University launches a book, ABC Dream. Stay tuned for details. Welcome back to the news. Final year theology student at the Pacific Adventist University, Wardley Barry Igivisa, celebrated the launching of his poetry book, ABC Dreams. Wardley's passion for writing was sparked in 2003 when he was in grade 5 attending Malaguna Primary School in East New Britain. The launching of the book was staged at the Pacific Adventist University's dining hall on Monday.
I published it on PNG Attitude.
Wardley Barry Igivisa, 28, from Eastern Highlands, ventured into poetry writing very early in his years in primary school. Speaking to MTV News, Wardley explained it all started during an event in school when he heard a poem rhyming the words book and look. Wardley will be graduating from the Pacific Adventist University with a bachelor's degree in theology in December this year. His poetry book, ABC Dreams, was inspired by many people he met throughout the years. However, one notable inspiration Wardley acknowledged is his girlfriend. The ABC Dreams author met his girlfriend in 2011 and said she has since been an inspiration to many of the poems he has written to compile the book.
I tried to reflect the values and encourage, through the poems, encourage ourselves, my friends, to embrace the values that we have for our culture and also accept the change that come with modernization. So the poems have a broad range of themes.
ABC Dreams was compiled through many years prior to the publication in July this year. Wardley was joined by many on Monday to celebrate the successful publishing of ABC Dreams, which he says is only the first of many more still to come. Also in attendance was Wardley's grade 4 teacher Elizabeth Collin and classmate Mariah Liu, who spoke of Wardley very proudly at the reception. Dr. Gillian Thiel of PAU's School of Theology was instrumental during Wardley's progress in compiling the book. Through the School of Theology, Wardley was able to publish ABC Dreams through Australian-based publisher Puk Publication and printed in South Carolina in the United States. Lorraine Gabina, National MTV News.
PNG Fire Services has paved the way for insurance cover to be made available for firefighters nationwide through an MOU signed with the Public Employees Association on the 30th of September. Following a national financial reform in 2000, public servants, including firefighters, were denied the privilege of insurance cover entitlements. PEA General Secretary Peter Toggs commended the fire service for taking up a bold move at bringing back what he considers a necessity, not a luxury.
The signing of the Memorandum of Agreement was witnessed by senior officers of the PNG Fire Service and members of the Firefighters Association. The agreement means that it is now compulsory for firefighters throughout PNG to join the newly established PEA insurance plan launched in May this year. According to Toggs, the plan provides affordable premium levels and benefits for public servants of up to 50,000 kina per annum in death cover and health insurance of up to 100,000 kina per annum. After the enactment of the Superannuation Act 2000 during the financial reform, social security institutions like Number 1 Superannuation and NAS Fund were restricted to their core business of retirement funds. This left public servants as well as workers in the private sector without any form of insurance cover. In the absence of a national policy to insure them, the PEA pushed for a scheme that would initially cover all financial contributors and the same be extended to all public servants. Toggs in his speech said it was about time the government and unions worked together to come up with a national insurance policy and appropriate legislations to make it work. He supported his argument, saying it would save the government as an employer unnecessary costs when they were eventually transferred to private insurers as risk takers. The PEA has already made representation with the Department of Personnel Management, who showed keen support of the plan. Melissa Goviro, National EMTV News.
Yoko Matsumoto, wife of the Japanese ambassador to PNG, today hosted the first ever kimono demonstration in the country. The kimono is the Japanese traditional dress and one of the world's instantly recognizable traditional garments. With the boost of PNG's ties with Japan in the areas of trade and business, cultural understanding is also important.
The kimono demonstration was hosted by the wife of Ambassador Mario Matsumoto, Madame Yoko, at the pair's official residence in Port Moresby. Guests of Mrs. Matsumoto, mainly women from various organizations, were presented a brief history of the traditional Japanese attire. The word kimono literally means clothing, and up until the mid-19th century, it was the form of dress worn by everyone in Japan. Today, kimonos are often worn by women on special occasions. A few older women and even fewer men still wear the kimono on a daily basis. People wear the kimono most often at weddings, tea ceremonies, and other very special or very formal occasions. The modern Japan is known as a world leader in technology. Just this week, a Japanese biologist won the prestigious Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. For PNG, Japan is considered an important development partner in terms of its investment in our guests, in education, and in other sectors. The kimono demonstration was a reminder that, like PNG, Japan has a very rich culture. Ambassador and Mrs. Matsumoto provided a glimpse into this almost overshadowed cultural side of Japan. Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas, Hurricane Matthew is pounding Cuba after making a second landfall hours ago. The storm first hit Haiti. The flooding and damage there are widespread. Haiti is not well equipped to manage a disaster of this magnitude. The small island is still struggling to recover from the devastating earthquake that struck 6 years ago.
The strongest hurricane to hit Haiti in over 50 years. Matthew ripped into the country's southwestern peninsula around 6 a.m. local time Tuesday. It made landfall near the city of Los Angeles, packing winds of 230 kilometers per hour. Matthew was the first hurricane to hit Haiti since the devastating earthquake in 2010 that killed over 200,000 people. This video was shot by the mayor of a local town near landfall. You can hear the howling winds and see the trees bending sideways as the hurricane came ashore. Due to Haiti's poorly constructed buildings and homes, many expect the damage to be extensive.
Many people aren't prepared, and we're already seeing and hearing stories of people losing their houses, getting swept away. We've even seen some hospitals and clinics destroyed already.
1,000 facilities across the country have been designated as safe havens. Some people, however, are afraid to leave their homes for fear that their belongings will be stolen.
We've already seen deaths, people who are out at sea. There are people who are missing. There are people who did not respect the alerts.
The forecast calls for the country to receive as much as 300 to 600 millimeters of rain, with life-threatening flash floods and mudslides are likely.
Unfortunately, the scale of this hurricane is far beyond the capacity of this government and of the NGOs that are working here. Really, we're going to need external aid to be able to respond to the immediate needs that are going to be water, shelter, and food.
Another worry for Haiti, standing water. Aid agencies fear that mosquito-borne diseases will spread, including cholera, which has taken another 10,000 lives and plagued the country since the earthquake. A devastating reality for a country that has already endured so much.
Chukai Sports is next. We'll have cricket and football. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The Hebo Barramundis won their final 50-over match of the South Australia Cricket Association Premier League on Sunday. Chasing 261 for victory, the Barramundis got off to a brilliant start with openers and landed themselves 79 runs for the first wicket. Their opponents, Eastern Edge, bowled back the Barramundis and left the visitors in trouble at 6 for 151. Mahurudai single-handedly took the game apart to smash a whirlwind 74 runs off just 37 balls. Dai's innings consisted of 8 boundaries and 2 massive sixes, and he was well supported down the lower order by Chad Soper, who guided the Barramundis to a win off the last ball. This victory against the Eastern Edge moved the Barramundis to second position after finishing the Saka Premier League 50-over competition with 3 wins, 2 losses and a draw. They are now in Adelaide to take on the Northern Territory Strike for a two-day fixture. The official mascot of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup 2016 started visiting schools yesterday. St. Tris was the first school Susa visited, where teachers and students gathered to give her a rousing welcome.
Students cheered as Susa made her way into the school grounds. Her visit coincided with the FIFA 11 for Health Legacy program currently being run in 16 schools within the nation's capital. St. Therese head teacher Christine Sugu says it was a privilege for the school to have Susa visit. She also said PNG is privileged to host such a large international tournament. Susa will be visiting other schools in Port Moresby in the lead-up to the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. The World Cup kicks off on the 13th of November and ends on the 3rd of December. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Head coach of the PNG men's national football team, Fleming Seritslev, has dropped a bombshell by stating that he will not consider young forward David Brown as a member of the squad during his tenure. These statements were made yesterday in an interview with MTV and follows from the refusal by Brown to join the national team's campaign during the OFC Nations Cup in May.
The 20-year-old, who is the son of famous grassroots cartoonist Bob Brown, currently attached with FC Groningen in Holland, still hopes to take part in the next OFC. Despite popular demand in the country for him to take part with the PNG side during this year's OFC, the star player insisted he will only be available in 4 years' time. PNG men's coach Fleming Seritslev said a young footballer will not be considered to join the PNG side for the next OFC Nations Cup.
I would have to say under me, no, because he has once rejected to come to play for the national team. And for me, the national team, it's not a buffet. You cannot say, oh, I don't want to come this time, but next time when you have the Nations Cup, then I'll be available. That's not how the music is playing.
Meanwhile, the national team is in Port Moresby on a week-long camp as Seritslev expands his talent base with a handful of new faces in the squad. The team is preparing months in advance for the Stage 3 qualifiers for Russia 2018. Dini Rose Reko, National EMTV Sports.
Chukai Sports continues with football and rugby league. That's after the break.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. With the successful announcement of the Under-18 men's and women's national side, Basketball PNG Executive Officer Joel Kalu today updated EMTV Sports on the squad's training program in preparations for the Oceania Championships in Fiji. Selected players for the squad, both men and women's, from other centers will travel to Port Moresby for training later in the month. Godwin Eki reports.
Travelling to Fiji for the Under-18 Oceania Championships in December for the first time, players were shocked to hear their names announced to be in the national side for 2016. Basketball PNG Executive Officer Joel Kalu today said selected players from around the country will be flown into Port Moresby, where they will go through a high level of intense training in preparations for the Games.
Yeah, look, we've selected our squads. So the men's squad is made up of 15 players, the women's is made up of 16. Of those players now, those that are based here in Port Moresby will conduct weekly training sessions. So that'll be a combination of basketball, skill-specific and strength and conditioning work. So we've got about 7 weeks to prepare for the Oceania Championships. So not much time, but you know, we're confident in that time we can get those athletes ready to go.
He said with the successful hosting of the Under-18 men's and women's national championships this year, more championships are expected to be held in Port Moresby to recognise other talents in their respective age groups.
We will look at doing large training camps with all the athletes probably the weekend prior to leaving, and that's where we'll get those players from outside of POM along with the Australian-based player to come up and take part.
After successfully hosting the Under-18 men's and women's national basketball championships here in Port Moresby, 2017 and 2018 will be exciting years for Basketball Federation of Papua New Guinea. Now they will also host the Under-15 and Under-17 national championships next year. Now FIBA Oceania has also selected Papua New Guinea to host the Under-15 Oceania Championships here in Port Moresby in 2018. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Andrew Fifita has been left out of Australia's squad for the Four Nations tournament just 2 days after scoring the winning try in Cronulla's premiership drought-ending 14-12 NRL Grand Final win over Melbourne. National Rugby League Chief Executive Todd Greenberg said Fifita and Fiji-born Parramatta winger Sammy Radradra were not considered for selection in the 24-man squad.
Both players were not selected because of off-field related issues. Fifita is under investigation from the NRL's Integrity Unit for his public support for a man convicted of a fatal assault. Radradra has also been left out due to off-field behavioral issues after he pleaded not guilty to domestic violence charges in July. Coach Mal Meninga has also decided to end the representative careers of Corey Parker and Cronulla captain Paul Gallen. Gallen and Parker have been denied a chance in Australian colours, with Meninga admitting it was a difficult decision to drop the experienced pair. Australia will play their first match against Scotland on the 28th of October at Lightstream Stadium. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
The 2016 NRL Premiership winning captain Paul Gallen of the Cronulla Sharks spoke about the struggles he faced during the 2014 supplement scandal. Gallen also revealed that during that time he also thought about taking his own life.
It's only 3 days since Cronulla Sharks made history in a grand final win that has since been described as history in the making. To immortalise the success of the 2016 victory, Captain Paul Gallen and his mate Mike Ernest got tattoos that will be remembered for years.
Obviously the first team ever to make history at the club, and to get it solidified on my arm is something very special.
I think it's about 14 and probably another 10 or so dreaming about it.
But it was only after the match that Gallen wasn't afraid to speak out openly about the 2014 supplement scandal that he struggled with for 3 years.
It was hard. I don't want to go back there now, but I had a special group of people around me who kept me sane and kept me going, and can't thank them enough.
Mark Knox, Sharks head trainer, was always at hand to keep Gallen in tune with the sport in supporting him through his struggles.
I don't want to say what he said, but I've never seen the guy that low before.
Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. Your weather details coming up next.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, with doing with Dulux.
Your weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow: in the southern region, fine although cloudy in Port Moresby and Daru, fine sunny in Kerema and Alotau, and mostly fine in Popondetta. In the Momase region, cloudy with chance of thundery showers in Lae and mostly fine in Medang, Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorengau, few thundery showers in Kavieng, few showers and thunderstorms in Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka, and a chance of a shower or two with possible thunderstorms in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, mostly fine in all centers. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema, to Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samarai Island including all Milne Bay Islands and Finschhafen, through Vitia Strait, Siasi Islands to Long Island, also West New Britain and Bougainville. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerema, to Yule Island to Hood Point, to Samarai Island, seas of 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands with waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel, to Finschhafen with waters of Finschhafen through Vitia Strait, Siasi Island to Long Island with waters of New Island to East New Britain and with waters of West New Britain to Bougainville, seas of 1 to 2 meters. Waters of Medang to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas: in the Coral Sea, seas rough to very rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots, reaching 48 knots at times. In the Solomon Sea, seas rather rough with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight to rough with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeast to northeast winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield, with doing with Dulux.
Before we go, patients at the Buka General Hospital have welcomed the International Pilgrim Virgin statue of Our Lady of Fatima. Our Lady of Fatima visited all the wards, bringing hope to patients. They offered prayers, seeking healing and divine intervention.
Buka General Hospital also houses several mass graves from the Bougainville conflict. Patients and guardians knelt and offered prayers. Our Lady of Fatima visited all the wards from the medical, surgical, children's maternity, and was welcomed by every patient and guardian, even from other mainland churches. The visit continued to the labor, morgue, dentistry, outpatient, and the administration office. Public servants also welcomed Our Lady of Fatima at the Bougainville administration headquarters, and even service providers like BSP and Telecom. From the Buka police station, you would hear the echoing of songs which prisoners sang. They sang songs of forgiveness and offered their prayers. Our Lady of Fatima also visited the Belisi Park in Bukit Town, where a mass grave of those missing persons killed during the Bougainville conflict is located. Sohano Island and Kokopau were the final stops on Sunday, with the pilgrimage later continuing throughout mainland Bougainville. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Now recapping our main stories for tonight. Governor wants answers to authority funding. Morobe aiming to cut election costs, and PNGDF soldiers return from UN mission. And that's the news, sports and weather for tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Helen Sayre. Pleasant viewing. Good night.